Hi, I am Tracy Ulansky on this Thursday, April 13th, 2023, and I'm with the Nebraska Vietnam Veterans Memorial Foundation Share Your Story project. Bellevue University is a sponsor of the National Vietnam Veterans Memorial Foundation Memorial Park project, and I'm at the Bellevue University Military Veterans Services Center with U.S. Air Force veteran Augustus McNair, or Gus, who has agreed to share his story for the Library of Congress Veteran History Project and the Nebraska Vietnam Memorial Park Project. So Gus, let's begin with your full name and where you were born.
Augustus McNair Sr. I was born in Harlow, Harlow, Arkansas. I don't know that zip code.
And tell me something about your family, your parents and siblings.
Yes, I'm the second born in the family of Lilybell, Charles McNair, and Joel McNair. I was born July 29th, 1927. And I believe they said it was a evening birth in the afternoon. Being in a segregated community, you have a little complicated getting doctors to come in and, wait on you. You're in the room having a baby and stuff. You finish after the whites finish, but we survived. God blessed us to survive. And in 1945, I finished my education at Fordyce High School, Fordyce, Arkansas. And principal at the time was named James Edward Wallace, W-A-L-C-E. And a few of the classmates of mine had went on and joined things like the post office, if they could get on it. And most of them went to California, and where the money was, they was working on a military project, building airplanes and things. I understand that some of the B-47s was built here in Omaha. I was about 18 years old when I left Fordyce, going to Little Rock, and from Little Rock to Fort Chaffee, turning west in the western part of the state. I was there a few days, processing through and getting paperwork together and everything. And I believe they put us on a train, and our first stop was in Dallas. Had dinner, and at the train station. Back in those days, they mostly fed the troops on the train, so the St. Louis Southwestern took me into Dallas and got us fed and everything, put us back on the train. They wouldn't allow us to, go loafing around a new place. We had to stay in a certain area. And I believe my first stop after Dallas would have been Shepherd's Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. Kind of common place for Texas weather. Being it was in the Christmas season, many of the troops was getting on the trains and, going this way, that way, going home for big turkey dinner. And the service did a good job, had just what we want, and everything worked out good. Finally told us that after we finished basic, I think basic was 5 weeks, if I made no mistake. Got in there, I think the Monday morning after we had 2 days off, Saturday and Sunday. So being we were recruits, they didn't let us go into the town until we was just about half through with our bivouac and everything, where we go off base and kind of living in the woods, you know. Got a heater out there, you're watching how you, after you finish your meal, you wash your dishes and put it on your belt. So you carried all that with you on your belt. But basic training turned out good. I went through it better than I thought I was going to go through. And I think my first permanent base, yes, was Columbus, Ohio. And that was in the southern part of the city. I was there a little over 3 years, about 3 years and a couple months. And one of the clerks in personnel wanted me to go to North Carolina and go to jumping out of airplanes. Well, by then I had about 4 years experience in firefighting. I said, well, if they got an air base there, I might go, but I don't feel like going, volunteering and going. I sure don't feel like nobody making me go. So, tell you what I'll do. You give me my discharge all processed and signed up and everything, be ready. And I want to finish this service as a firefighter all the way through it. Till I see better things coming, you know. I wouldn't think about jumping out of an airplane. It wasn't my job, see. I might jump in a fire. But it was a great career as years went by. So I got a chance to, as a result of this refusing to go to paratroopers, I got a chance to work for the railroad, which is right up the hill. So I went downtown and signed up, and I didn't have no idea that I was going to have to catch another bus. But they were giving veterans in Columbus just free, looked like free everything, you know. So when I found out I was going to, I think the next thing I did, after I signed up for the railroad job and began to learn to work pretty good, after about 3 months, they told me I was a, permanent railroad worker. So I got to thinking about that, and I still had a field jacket on with my 2 stripes on it, and had a recruiting office that took care of the whites, even in Columbus, Ohio. Why they had it downtown, I don't know. Maybe it's just put it there to let all the people that want to go in the military volunteer and go into the military, because it wasn't too much long after I went in that they did start volunteering, letting them go in. And by then I done took a leave home. I got a chance to ride home free again on the railroad, Chesapeake and Ohio, running out of Columbus into, let's see, one went into Cleveland, one went into, I believe, North Carolina. No, Kentucky, went into Kentucky. There was 5 railroads coming into the city of Columbus, just like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And all this freight going through. So Columbus was like an exchange city. It was just going all through. It wasn't hard for you to catch a bus or a train. The traffic was good, highways was good, and everything. Police was very good to people. You passed you north of the Mason-Dixie line, and everything went good, you know. And the rest of my career was PCS here, TDY here, TDY here. I was always going someplace, you know. So I didn't have too much time to, I guess what I call sit down and really dig into the fire service where I could keep getting the stripes. 2 stripes, more money, 3 more money, 4 more money. So I got up to 4 stripes. Just looked like everywhere I go, there'd be too many tech sergeants. And it was something I couldn't make. I knew I didn't have enough education, I guess, to make those, top levels, but I did well in what I had. I knew my job. I studied it, I worked it out, Fire, I learned that, fire was bright, but if you had the right weapon in your hand, you could knock the fire out. You see some fire hoses going over a building, right into a building, and depending on how many floors you got, but most of the ones that I studied until I came to Omaha, they were all 2 level. And our barracks was upstairs and downstairs. But life went good. I met a little girl that I liked in Columbus, and so she wrote and told her mother she'd met a serviceman, and he was in the Air Force, and so I finally got a chance to go and meet my in-laws, and they were nice people. One of the brother-in-laws worked for Caterpillar Tractor Company in Peoria. Another one had gone into the Navy, and he wound up working for the Missouri Pacific Railroad. So he had connection with the railroad, I had connection with the railroad. And out of that family of 11, I believe it was 5 boys and 6 girls. And today, there's one in that family living. The rest of my cousins and nieces and nephews. Now in my family, out of 9 boys and 3 girls, the 3 girls are all living, looking good, beautiful as ever. And by the time the baby girl was born, I think I was on my last tour overseas, which was in England. So I spent a year at Upper Hayward, and I got sick with something in my hip, right in here. So the doctor checked this leg out, and he looked in and he said, "Yep, got a cyst, and we're gonna have to go in and pull it out." I said, "How are you gonna do that?" So, he's telling me about the medical way they go and do it. And give me this little Chinese guy and said, "Oh yeah, that'll take care of the baby." My wife was having a baby, they get ready to put me on a plane. So they put me on a plane and sent me to Germany. Big hospital in Wiesbaden, Germany. Fed me well until they got ready to operate, and told me, "No supper for you. We got a nice surprise." Gets me upstairs and puts me in the bed and began to tie this and tie that, and you know how they stick you and put you to sleep like almost. So they would wake up and they had these nurses beating me like in the side, right in here, making me cough up all that mucus, spit it in the big tank. And so I had about, I guess that lasted about 4 weeks. While I had While that was going on, my grandfather on my mother's side, he passed away. My daughter was born like the next day, so it was like they met, born the same day. And I kept telling me, don't worry, everything will be fine, gonna be fine. So I gets back to my base and they put me right to work. I thought I was gonna have a chance to take some leave and, look around Germany, but no, they put me back on the plane and took me right back to work. But it was a good 20-year tour, when you're putting a tour of service in like that. I took 2 children overseas, brought back 3. And things was fine. When I got here to Omaha, well, they let me move to North Omaha and found some apartments to move in. I moved in an apartment for a little while, then I moved in a house, and finally I bought my first home, and we're living in it now. Yeah. And
that would be your second. That's your second home.
Yeah, second home, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I had one on Corbett Street, that's what it was, yeah. Moved out of that one, moved into, bought the one I'm living in now. That's about it as far as that in the military. I made several overseas stations. Spent 18 months on Okinawa. That's sort of near Japan, but it's just out from it a little bit. I put 2 tours in Korea, one in a base called Kadena, and the other base was called, I'll think of it in a minute. Naha, yeah, Naha. And, out of all this traveling, I got a chance to see a lot of people, different nationalities, and my top grade that I held was Staff Sergeant. Yeah. Yeah. Then I went to work for the Western Electric Company. I was here in Omaha. I was actually out in Millard, out in West Omaha. So I worked for them about 9 years, I think it was, yeah. Paid good money, but they just worked just so much overtime. It was, but I got through it, and I met a lot of good people, good friends, and life's been good for me. I haven't had no major problem with my health, since I've been. So I'm almost July 29th this year. I'll be turning 96. I think that's a pretty good achievement. Yeah, I've been to a lot of funerals and seen people die that were, very much younger, yeah. God's been good to me. I have a lovely wife, and she's good to me. She keeps me running straight and everything, corrects me when I'm wrong. So I think that's a natural part of life. Okay.
You forgot.
I'm ready for other questions if you want to ask them.
You forgot
Okay.
to, I think when you had told me that when the guy was trying to get you to go into North Carolina, with Fort Bragg, that you indicated that you volunteered to get out, and then you met this guy that was, you mentioned a portion of it about you you met, he saw you, I know you mentioned the jacket.
Oh,
that you
yeah, and he
had
called
on.
me in his office.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Tell me
downtown.
about that.
Yeah, that was the downtown, for most of the whites, yeah. And he said, well, I'm gonna go ahead and sign
Yeah,
you
list you
up.
up.
Yeah, so he signed me up and, you know, told me where the office was and when I said, they said, yeah, we got room for you, yeah. For track labor, yeah.
So that was re-enlisting you back into the Air Force.
Yeah, and he re-enlisted me back into the service and sure enough, about 2 months later, I got called back. Yeah, began to see the boys driving, flying over Columbus and all that, yeah.
Okay, and you told me about you met Bill Davis. You had told me about you had met Bill Davis.
Oh, yeah, we met him in Kentucky.
Oh.
Yeah, Cotton Field, right next to the gold, I think, yeah. Next guard shack over there, told us don't go over there. They might shoot you, you know. I don't know if they would or not, but you could wave them at them in the morning, you'd be out getting fresh air, but we wasn't allowed to go. And that's so finally when B.O. came in, he flew in on his aircraft, which was a B-25. It was a two-seater that carried about 4 people in pilot, co-pilot, and an navigator. But life was good back in those days. I never thought I'd live this long. You know, being on a farm, everything was happening. Folks was getting bit by rattlesnakes in Florida. Florida was not the best base for me to be. But I made my way by, you know, staying out of trouble as much as I could. And life was good. I really enjoyed the service and the travel, the places I went. Got a chance to travel on the ride on 3 naval ships going overseas to Okinawa, to Korea, back to the States. It was good. I liked it.
You mentioned to me about
I can tell
how
her
you
something.
got a chance to go to, how you went to lunch. He invited you to lunch, Bill. Invited you to lunch. Bill, you had mentioned to me that, some time ago, that Bill Davis had invited
Oh
you to go
yeah,
to lunch
walking
with-
down the streets in Tokyo, we had what we call putting a base back in service after it had been set bombed by your enemy. And this is like a training for if it happened, you know what to do. See, you go right to your job. See, cooks go to mess hall, make sure they're getting sandwiches and things that they probably still feeding a few sandwiches down in SAC headquarters. I went in SAC headquarters once, I believe, to some smoke that was coming up the hallway, you know, on upstairs, and all I had to do was stand there and watch 2 men have hose line, and one could go this way, that way, if they had to fight a fire on the ground. But we didn't have to fight a fire. Well, that's a drill to us, but, you know, if you do your job well and come out well, you know, you're respected by your enemies, you know, about who you may be thinking, being your enemy. And when I met B.O. in Davis, I was going to supposed to be classified because they didn't want the Japanese to know that they had those 2 bombs on Tinian, see, and Tibbs had dropped one, and I forget the other pilot of the other plane that dropped the 2nd bomb. But Hirohito, he didn't want to give up on neither one of them, so they gave him an ultimatum. We got Nagasaki, we got Hirohito, and guess who is next? The Big T, Tokyo. Tokyo was near where all the ships and so that would knock out the ships. But they decided to, try that. But life was good, and that was a great lunch with him, because I was on my way to my club, He said, yeah, it's down the street a little bit, I just passed it. Nah, but you gonna, come on, go ahead and eat with me. Oh, I can't go out. I'm telling the colonel, I came and I was there, he said, get in here. My feet literally went up off the ground. This guy just,
Now, Bill Davis was one of the Tuskegee Airmen. wasn't
yeah,
he?
right, he was the commander.
Yeah.
His father had been to Lockburn and had us all outside, took pictures of us. And somehow or another, I missed mine. I don't know, I paid $5 for a picture, never got it. But I do have, that I was gonna bring home to a picture of the guys fighting in Ramatella, Italy. And it's right outside of London, like you got Los Angeles, and then you got another part of Los Angeles, kind of just around the corner, but it's basically a part of the same city. And it was, I would call it kind of mixed up a little bit, but I made myself enjoy where I was at. I wasn't crying, mother, I want to come home. Mother can't help me come home. They drafted me, they keep me long as they need me, then they're going to send me home. But I enjoyed all of it. Pearl Harbor is a beautiful place. If you ever want to go to a good vacation, fly to Pearl Harbor, you'll love it. I rode on a ship, it just looked like you wasn't gonna get there. Could you believe from Fort Mason in Northern California, by the time that ship breaks and leave America, it's gonna be about 15 days later before they get into Tokyo. And a few more days before you get into Korea. And a few more days before you get to Okinawa. So you had a chance to see a lot while you was on the one trip going from say Los Angeles to, Tokyo, stuff like that, see, so.
I think Tracy probably has some questions for you too.
Oh, I bet you have.
You were drafted at the end of World War II.
Right.
What kind of training did you receive right after basic training?
Oh, I just had a daily training of working on the flight line, taking care of things like fuel spills. As they changed aircrafts, they come up with more modern aircrafts. Trying to think of the name of that plane they bought. B-52, B-25, let me think a minute. Oh yeah, the KC-135. It was kind of a leaky airplane because the wings were made like this. See, it was, they had the B-36. You didn't see too many of them. They were big bombers. This thing could carry enough bombs back. I see why they hit them. Because, if the Japs could have got them, them little zeros, man, they could do like this. And what they done, the plane would actually turn over. And but it'd be the outside of the plane is what turns over. He looked to be upside down, but he can still shoot. He still shoot down his enemy. And they were good. They were good. We lost a lot of troops in Tinian where Paul Tibbets dropped that bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
So were you
The
crew?
third was going to put the third one down on Tokyo. So that would have really been a...
So were you crew or were you a pilot? Were you crew or were you a pilot?
No, I was just a general firefighter. Yeah, like these guys are in Omaha. Drove the fire trucks, you learn how to drive it first, and then you learn how to set it, spot it, hook it up to a hydrant, and, and set up your lines according to the way the chief wanted to go, and he could have a double reverse. That's 2 lines like this going to fire. One is covering this house, and one is covering this house. Maybe this house is on fire, but one of these on fire, so you wet down the house. Now, if they were doing things even up to now, I think it's some things that they're doing that they could improve, but they just, it might say, well, I like having 6 men. Well, if you can cut cost and save some money, transfer a couple of them in personnel, you might have a man that's better in personnel than he is out there on the ramp firefighting. He may not have the strength or something, Something may have happened before you come in, and the recruiter that recruited him in, they missed it on the first examination. He gone through basic, way down the road. I think that's what that tumor was that they fixed in Germany.
So were you trained as a firefighter in the service, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And what different places were you stationed at?
First base primary station was Columbus, Ohio. I was there about 3 years and a week, I think. That's where I learned how to fight fire and put out a wooden stable like fire. I'd come to that door and teach you how to go up to the door and take the back of your hand and touch it off. Get close to it and feel the heat. Well, that means that you take a glove and try to turn the knob on the door. So you look at the door like that. Well, see, what I can do, I can take a battering ram, crash into it, but I gotta watch out for the backflash, because fire just could be coming in from everywhere. So there's certain ways you do things. You don't just go running into something you haven't been trained in it, enough to know what to do. You could get yourself killed or somebody else. We had a young man here in Omaha. I was out of the service, and he was a preacher, and I'm a preacher, and been to Church of God in Christ here in Omaha, and so he was telling about it one day, and he said, I'm gonna have to get out of the service and go on pension. The man walks better today almost than I do. He fell through a roof, say he's on the 2nd floor, goes down to the next floor, but God didn't let him die. And he walks good as I do. Yeah. So you experience things like that in life, and you look at a man that's in a wheelchair. He's sitting there. We had one in church Easter Sunday. Pastor said, did he want to walk again? He kept saying, would you try to stand up and walk? I don't know. But he was too busy. I'm not going to make you stand up and walk, but you keep praying to God. You really want to walk? You ask God, do you want to come out of that wheelchair? And if he wants you out, God will take you out. If not, he's going to take care of you while you're there till he calls you home. I'm trying to see if there's anything, think of anything else important that's missing.
Well, I know you told me how he was, helped, I think it was a plane that came in and the guy was hanging upside down, I guess out of the plane. He was helping with the fire part of it. Can't remember. How was that? You remember that one? Oh, you
Airplane
remember?
crash?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Sounds like something I did somewhere, I can't figure out where
I think it was,
See, she's my second wife, and now my first wife was here. See, I was born in July 29th. She was born December 14th, same year. So we were real close, yeah.
I think it was,
Real close.
you had
to-
mentioned about,
Where did you meet your first wife? Where did you meet your first wife?
Oh, in a little town in southern Illinois, where she lived with her brothers and sisters.
how long were you married?
Hmm?
How long were you married?
We were married 50 years, I believe, and about 6 days.
And I think she wanted to know what other bases you went to after you left Columbus. I guess when you first started off, you went from Columbus to, what was your next destination?
What was the first one? Let me think.
You said Columbus.
Did you do any training in Alabama there at Tuskegee?
No, I didn't go to Tuskegee. That was my oldest brother that went to Tuskegee. He's deceased now. You know, he's the father of one of those 4 little girls that was killed in the church bombing. And that was a sad funeral to go to, I'm telling you. I went, but I'm telling you, it was just sickening to see the remains of those little girls, the way they were blown up. And one of the fellows that lived close by the church, he said it just threw him actually out of the bed. His bed actually jumped and moved up and bombed it too. Putting these bombs. Had this crazy guy that they put him in jail for setting off them bombs. Yeah, that's another one. There goes another one, you know. Yeah, I set them off all over the time, wherever I want to. That was quite a laugh.
And you did 2 tours in Korea.
Yes, sir.
Was that during the war itself?
Yeah.
Because you and I got a chance to talk earlier, and I
Yes, sir,
remember
we sure
that. So
did,
you
yes, sir.
you went in right in the tail end of one war, and as you know better than most, they still took casualties after the war.
Oh, yeah.
As we occupied Germany
Yeah.
and Japan.
Yeah.
And then you left and you come back in, and I imagine when you were sharing your story with us that it was the reserves that you went into and then got called back up right away.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And then
sir.
you stayed in for Korea.
Yeah, finished it up, yes, sir.
And one of the things that brings us here today is, and why we're so excited to talk to you, is because most of the people that we're visiting with, they started their careers in Vietnam. And you ended yours during Vietnam, while the war was going on. I know you were in
Right.
Germany, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Can you share some of the things that you experienced while Vietnam was going on? Because I know there was a lot of turmoil again.
Yes, it was. We was getting a lot of casualties coming into California. They was busy making the bombers here in Omaha, and they did some Kansas have flatland, but there were a couple of bases, I believe in Topeka, Kansas they had one, and there was another one in Lincoln, Nebraska had one. Yeah, a little small base. Yeah. But that was about best I can tell of the overseas.
What's your most vivid memory of the Korean War? What's your most vivid memory of the Korean War?
I think it was probably something we had to do. Oh, when I got into Germany and all that was over, I was on my way to downtown. It wasn't Tokyo, it was another place. Misawa, Japan, and some of those Japanese were meaner than others, and they just wouldn't accept things. And I saw the spot where they bombed Pearl Harbor. And by the time our troops got over there, they done already sunk the Arizona, I believe it was, one of the ships. But all the troops coming from that situation that got out of it, they were saying that, you better be glad you didn't see it or just saw it in the film, when they made films of it, and left a lot of scenes out because it was just too gruesome. Yeah.
What was the hardest part of your service? What was the hardest part of your service?
That's a hard one. Hardest part of the service. Well, I can't think of nothing that was really hard. I guess you'd be having fun looking at a new building when I got a chance to go downtown Tokyo and saw all the beautiful buildings they had, and they didn't have any skyscrapers really, but they had some nice buildings. But I still say one of my best places I went was England. That was almost the end of the service. That's where my daughter that's living today. Yeah, she drives for the FedEx Corporation, drive a big truck. Her daughter loads out there, and her son, her baby son, he helped load the equipment on these planes that fly around the country.
When you retired, Gus, in 1967, with the Vietnam War still very much involved, in fact, still getting more heated up with more troops.
Yes, sir, sure was.
How were you received in the community? Because I know there was some, not all, but some backlash within the communities with the protesters and that, where they, harassed or, had derogatory terms towards veterans as a whole. And then on top of that, you add the racial tensions that we had at that time too. How were you received? I mean, what was your...
I used what I had heard of it, because I didn't go to Vietnam. And I'm glad I didn't, because they had stuff in Vietnam. That they would show you scenes where you're walking through a door and you don't see a trap door down there. Get your foot caught in it And that thing just stand you up and got like a razor thing, just comes to slice you up like this slice your cheesecake or something. They lost a lot of troops like that. And they were put, black troops were set kind of, I heard this, I wasn't there, so I can't witness to it, but heard that we lost a lot of troops, and a lot of them were lost because they were black. And I think Germany had a lot of, over in East Germany, that's what it was. Because Hitler didn't want to, Hitler told him you wasn't going to come to America as a prisoner, like some of the Germans did. You don't come over and do nothing for America. Much as they done destroyed them over there. But last I heard that, this might not be true, but I heard that they took them out on Arizona, not Arizona, what's the name of that town? Little country, starts with an A. Ooh.
In Europe?
No, had to take them out of Europe because we had all of Europe captured, you know. Yeah, yeah. In fact,
Argentina? I know that some of the, after World War II, a lot of people ended up in Argentina.
Yeah. And Eisenhower was supposed to have, instead of bringing the troops home, he kept sending them over. See. And I think it was it Johnson, President Johnson? Did he have? He slowed it down some, didn't he? I think he did. Yeah.
He's the one that kind of ended it.
But you know, if you're in one part of the world and you have a war in another one, you know, you don't get a chance to. You wait for the stars to strike. Sometime it might not make it. Yeah. Sometimes your letters would be piling up at home. Piling on railhead someplace in Tokyo trying to get a train out of there. But they'd finally get home. She kept telling me, write it down, get your notebook, write it down real quick. And you know how you doing everything at once, and no, at once. This happened, that happened. You don't get a chance to set it up like you want it. Well, you keep a track of it, you know. And life has been good with me.
I had two brothers that was in the Vietnam War. I wasn't at home, but I know I think I think it was Charles. I heard that he had a rough time. And I never heard of any repercussions, you know, in between the blacks. I never heard of any repercussions about how that they didn't win the war. I hadn't heard anything on that. But mentally, he suffered quite a bit. And he did end up getting disability, but it was kind of rough for him. He said he almost had to scare him to death to get it. But he did go seek help. And then the other one that was behind him, when he went in, he had like little mental issues, but that manhood, you know, I won't go and submit to anything. So because he was told to go and see if he could get some help, but he never did. So he just kind of stood alone and just worked as a supervisor for the city of Mobile in Alabama, and then he was in the medic field. So sounded like he had done quite well, and I heard that he had gotten a letter. They wanted him to come back in and go into medicine, but he never did. Stayed out. Yeah, but I heard it was rough, but I didn't know, I really didn't know that they were treating the Vietnam people quite as the veteran. I didn't know that they had that going on. I guess I just wasn't around it, you know.
Right.
But I hear it now, how they were treated. I'm going, wow. I had one brother, my oldest brother, he was in the Navy. He was a diesel mechanic, but I never heard him say anything. And you see, Johnny was, can't remember what year, he went in, I'm 38 plus 16, because he put his age up to get in there. You know how they were doing back there at that time.
Oh, yeah.
You see, I think he was born in 38, and then probably he went in about 17. So they may have been about 50, 55, or before, if I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4. I didn't hear him talk anything negative about the service either.
Well, what would you Gus, recommend or advise somebody that's younger today about serving your country or about going into military as a career? There's two different questions there. One is sometimes we're called to do it, but whether we thought about it or not.
Right.
And then another is I have a calling to serve and I choose to do it.
Oh,
You did both.
yes,
You were called to do it and then you chose to do it.
yeah.
What would you give to advice to a younger person today? Because so many people, we have turmoil right now. And a lot of young
We do.
people,
The shooting in the streets. See, they get them in the. It would, first of all, you get them in a camp where you could train them how to use a gun for hunting, and how to mind your own business when you're in a strange place, and kind of leave people alone till you learn something about the area. If you don't, you better get out of it, because, you know, I see these, yeah, it's a question. You don't want to give him a bad job that he's going to hate later on down the road, but you want to give him a job where he can train and make a trade out of it. I was downtown yesterday, and I'm looking for a military record so I could bring it here. And for some reason, the people don't have it. And I'm gonna go over there and see my doctor, was right down the hill here at the annex, and see if I can get her to. I got a woman doctor, and I think it may kind of be a change to some of these men doctors I've had. And I guess women sometimes have more pity on it. Depends on how you feel about your husband. She's so concerned about me, she made sure that I didn't fail coming, you know. We had to go and get a battery put in the car. They told me yesterday at the shop on base that I was going to have a battery, and they changed the oil in the engine and said, yeah, your battery is bad. I said, you hear this little clicking when you go to turn the ignition on? Yeah, what is that? You got a little bad connection, and the connection is in the battery box. I said, now I got a brand new one, good for 4 years. Yeah.
Now he wants to know, what would you tell young men today about going to encourage them to go into the service?
Well, you know, these young men today are hard to talk to. And they know everything about the service before they go in. How they get it, I don't know. But it's hard. They don't really want to go in.
Well, my dad used to say, always hire a teenager. Why, they still know everything.
That's true.
Well, I had two grandsons to go in. One, they were brothers, went in about the same time. The baby boy, he went on and finished his tour of duty and everything. But that first one, he got out after so long. He got out, and I was hoping he would stay in there. But the other grandmother, she was saying, "Oh, my baby, I don't know, my baby. It might look like my baby's having a hard time." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, how you know that?" So, I've talked to him here in the past year about the situation off and on, and then that wording does come up. You don't want to really fight for this country because of what goes on, when you see what goes on. No, I want to go with you. He said, now if they draft me, I'll go. But to volunteer, so we just kind of let it go.
Well, and it's nice to know that people would be available and would be willing to serve. But as we know in Vietnam, there was people that refused to go in and left the country. And I think that even though there was so much turmoil and a lot of healing afterwards,
Yeah, it was.
I think that the likelihood of having those people leave that would refuse to serve would be much greater. I think the numbers would be much greater. I truly do.
I think so too. Yes,
And
sir.
that's where it's, Gus, I don't know how to tell you, thanks is not enough. As I listen to and work with Tracy here and hear what you've done for our country over so many years, and you as a minister, and your heart is golden, and you look at your blessings, I just
Count your blessings. And just,
your story is so important
thank you.
because you could look at everything along your journey and find plenty to complain about,
Yes, sir.
but you never had a bad word, and that means you've always done your job,
You fight hard to
and you
stay happy
look for
with
that
everybody.
next day and
Yes, sir.
count your
Yes,
blessings.
sir.
That's what he tells me. He said he had some rough times. He said, different offices and stuff like that.
Well, maybe he only wants to tell you.
He couldn't really he just said, I've had some bad ones. He
I've
said,
had
but
some bad
I
days.
just buckle up and had to go through it. He said,
Well, is there anything else that you would like to add to share with Tracy or I?
I really don't think it is.
I was hoping we had kind of sit down and talk. I said, we need to sit down and write some of this stuff down because when you're put on the spot, you kind of forget a lot of stuff. So I don't know, maybe we can do that within a week. See if he can maybe pull up something else that he's kind of forgotten. I don't know what your time frame is.
Well, our time frame is absolutely your time frame because we have enough, I think, Tracy, don't we? We have enough that we can move forward and have it, but at any time we can add more to it. And I know on behalf of our whole team, we would love to do so. We would love to have and visit and share coffee and bring in some
Yes,
rolls or
Oh, yeah.
whatever we can do to just enjoy because there's a lot to be learned
It is.
for where you're at now. And bitterness don't get you to 95 years old or 90, soon to be 96.
96,
Yeah,
July 29.
yeah, so bitterness don't get you there.
Oh, no, oh, no.
So, thank you.
He tells me now, I don't have any enemies.
And there's a whole lot of people there's a lot of people that we've talked to that would like to get a chance to meet you. Just because they'd like you to be part of their community and serving veterans and sharing stories and that. But
To help somebody.
yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah, I don't know how many of the people that I met at Offutt are still here, but I had one leader that he thought more of me, and I think, than he did the rest of the people in his unit. And that was a fellow named Jim McCoy, James McCoy.
oh yeah.
Jim, when I went to work, about the last job I had in Omaha was at the airport. I was a bus driver. Guess who got on my bus one day and I thought I was going to fall out of the seat? Jim jumped on the bus, man, he got my hand, he just shaking it and shaking it. I've been wondering, where were you? He had taught me in my NCO leadership class as a staff sergeant. And he was a tech sergeant at the time. And it was a new class that the Air Force was coming out with. And SAC had wound up making them. Everybody would come to Omaha back when SAC was what we call pretty hot. Looked like if you got to the base early, you'd get a good job. Because, you know, the header didn't. They put you to work as soon as you sign in, see, and get a job. When Jim set up this thing for SAC, he was just the type of guy, if he had met somebody where he didn't get a chance to get something from him before he left him, so he had to go to Barksdale for the top NCO leadership school. So he was kind of back and forth between Omaha. So Jim, boy, he talked about me, but I forget what he gave me as a tip first day. And I just took my stuff and followed. Thank you, man. You didn't have to do that. You don't really owe me nothing. Yeah. But then Jim went on and got out of the service. He went back to Barksdale and he set all this stuff up for SAC, and he went all over these SAC bases. And, you know, they gave him authority to take a rank if he had to. But they give, you know, you use good judgment. Don't take a man that's, you know, has done a good job. The loafer, you get him to go back to work. You talk to him, you talk to him, you talk to him a few times. But you can't lose the rest of your people fooling with one guy. See, I'm the bad guy in the group. They should have just, hey, we're just gonna put you out of the service. You won't have no retirement. See, you can go on back home to what you were doing before you come here. But Jim was not like this. He saw something in me that he couldn't figure out. I guess he didn't want to ask me. We're both out of the service now and living good. But Jim had a skin problem, if you remember. You ever meet him?
I met him several times, yes.
Okay. You notice that his face,
He had dry skin.
yeah, he had dry skin. Just looked like the blood wouldn't be as fresh. You see, yeah.
I think if I remember, he had 11 or 13 kids.
Yeah, let's see, at that graduation party, it was his wife, and she was always taking care of his skin, keeping him, you know, like she's trying to keep it And because up in Indiana, you know, it could be raining in the morning and hot sun in the evening, especially in the summertime, you know. Farmers out there farming, you can see them from the base like you used to could here in Omaha. And it was kind of like Omaha was, except when I was working at West Electric, I worked at a golf course up there near my house where I live now. Up there, I live right behind Emmanuel Hospital. I could stand in my yard and throw a baseball up to my son in his house, right up a little hill. And, you know, I waved at him a lot of times. He'll come around and want to take me a ride in his little Jeep. He's got one of them little Jeeps. You know. He kind of got his wife. She had to almost jump up to hit the running board. I said, boy, you gotta trade that thing, get you a car that. So your wife ain't gotta need a step ladder. But he's a nice kid.
You either gotta get a shorter Jeep or a taller wife.
That's right. It's stepping up.
Life brings some funny things sometimes, you know.
Oh, and I have my son. I have two boys, but the one, my baby boy, he started out in the Navy and then he went over to the National Guard. And so he did 20 years. So he just, I've been regular, working as a civilian now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one, he didn't do quite everything he was supposed to do, so he ended up in trouble.
I think we all do that now and then.
I'm telling you, so keep you praying. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll kind of sit down with him and see if he can come up with some other things, because I know some things he started talking, maybe you never told me that before, that he could maybe bring back and see. And I know you have to, it can be verified.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not
Oh,
anything that we just want to be putting on paper.
Well, no, you can put things on paper too.
No, I mean, I don't just want something to be on paper, I want it to be verified. You know,
Yeah.
that it's legitimate stuff.
Well, I do have some forms after we end this
Okay.
that we'll have him signed so that we can get Gus's records. And then that way it'll have all the dates
Oh,
and stuff,
yeah,
and it'll
that's-
show,
Okay, yeah.
it'll show your different
Oh,
medals and stuff, because I know you have some campaign medals from
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
from Korea and that, and it'll show all the listing. And I also, Shirley, gonna ask Tracy to do two, or the conditional releases for you too.
Oh,
And
okay,
all we
sure.
need your signature.
All right.
And the reason is you shared quite a bit. I wish we would've got you in camera.
Yeah.
But
Oh, no, I
maybe
know.
we can
Okay.
pan over a little bit and catch Shirley so that as people do watch this,
Yes.
they're gonna say, who is that young lady? You know, and they're gonna say, she's too young to be his wife. But that way we have proof.
Yeah.
So, but, no, we thank you both very much for sharing, and we absolutely would enjoy anything that you would like to add.
Okay.
So,
I will say this, that you can go ahead and put it on paper. I think I really did like the Tuskegee Airmen really more than I did most of the other people that I met, you know, in different places, because it seemed like we sort of stuck together a little closer. We looked out for each other. I remember how B.O. would come down and have coffee with me. I learned how to serve the coffee. Some of them wanted the coffee with nothing in it. Some of them wanted the coffee. Looked like to me too much cream, you know. Too much coffee or something, you know. All men are different, you know. But overall, the 20 years was good. I was ready to go out when time come to go out. And I remember when the base commander asked me, what are you gonna do now? Take a vacation and believe he said, you gonna go to some of the places you didn't get to go in the service? No, man, I'm ready to get me a job and go to work and take care of my family. I am about through traveling. Seems like I've been everywhere. Time I turn around, PCS here, PCS there.
Yeah, I have a small family compared to the families you grew up with,
Oh, yeah.
but I had 7 kids. And when I retired, my retirement present was number 7. She was the size of a peanut at my retirement, so I definitely know what you mean by going right to work to feed the family.
Yeah, that's what it took, yeah. Wow.
God is good, I tell you.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't have took nothing from this, you know. Farm work was so hard, cutting down them big old trees with that crosscut saw, the axe, splitting up, oh man. But we got through it, I think holidays, Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, barbecuing outdoors, that was nice. My daddy showed me how to barbecue like a roast in the ground. He'd take the post hole digger, dig a couple of holes, set the dirt out there. And he'd take his hands and he'd go to the store and buy some of this. You ever seen you wrap a sandwich of meat, something like a roast, and be about cover your hand. Now my hand's kind of small and I'm not a big man. My daddy was about 6'3". I got grandsons that's 6'4" almost.
Almost like Popeye. Going, whoa.
I got a chance to work for, you remember Bob Boozer? Bob Boozer worked down for the phone company. So I got a job down there. And then making my key rounds and inspecting things, seeing all their stuff was fire safe. Boozer had office up on about the 4th or 5th floor. He's got a basketball hoop right like that. He said at his desk, man, that thing hit the net, no all that. Well, he's one of these guys like, what you call him now? Remind me a lot of the guy that got killed in the plane crash.
Oh, Kobe Bryant.
Kobe, yeah. Kobe was good. And he had to one, who was the white boy? What was his name? Charlie something. And it's always like a caboose on a train.
Oh.
It was so funny,
I'm not, the big guy that I'm familiar with is Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Bird, that was
Yeah.
the Bird,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but he made some good shots. Yeah. Pretty good. And Bob had nerve enough to come to me one day. We was out there in the driveway at Airplane, and he says something. He said, "Oh, Gus, come here, I got something to ask you. They want me to come back to Kansas State and be a golfer. I think the guy that after Boozer left and came on, went to work for the phone company downtown, wasn't doing so good. So I'm gonna come back and try to help him out. So I thought for a minute, and it's just like a spirit hit me and said, tell him, stay where he is till he leaves. And in other words, God is telling me to tell him, I got this. See, I was a young preacher then in my church. I said, well, sir, I tell you what, you stay here, because you're going to get some retirement when you leave here. They can hire you today back and you tell them some good things to do, and good, that's great. Next thing you know, okay, you can go on back to the phone company. Now, phone company may not want you. Somebody else has got you. Got your benefits. I said, you think about this sometime. Let me know what you think about it tomorrow. He was waiting for me when I came to work the next day. Gosh, how did you know this? I said, the Heavenly Father talks to all of us, but we don't always catch what He's telling us. And sometimes He's got to just kind of beat it in you right quick. See? I said, well, like I told you, it's good. Stay here. I forget how many years later it was, Bob did pass away. It's like, it's telling me that you ain't gonna be around, you're gonna be gone. So, and I learned to watch people a little bit more that I'm working with, especially if I'm the low man or the underdog, or whatever you want to say. You study them, study your leaders, study them well. Try to find out what they're thinking all the time. If you're a good thinker, and you say, Lord, am I on the right road? It's just like a shadow might come by you. You need some more training. Come on. Go back and look over your work. You're going to catch a few mistakes. But, poor Bob, he said he was really glad I had come by and gave him that advice, because, he said, and I forget who the guy was that they had, but they finally got somebody better, I guess, or things got better all around. But life can bring you some things sometimes. You can be so crossed up, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know your right hand from your left, They both look alike.
You have any other questions? Tracy, I don't want to leave you out.
I was just wondering what you thought of the service and how it changed you as a person, or how it shaped you as a person.
Well, it stopped me from a lot of my bad habits that I had when I first went in. I learned to kind of look back at my mistakes and catch them, I guess, before I got to the end of it. I was real happy when I retired and I went to Western Electric and went out there and worked with all these fellows that was, these people were younger than I was. I don't think I had a supervisor out there that was older than I was, It was like I should be leading them. Lord, what have I gotten myself into? Why didn't I go back and try to go to the railroad? I did have a little experience, in Columbus for about 18 months. And that's pretty good, out there driving spikes. I learned how to do it, how to set the rails and all that. And I got along good with the people. But I didn't get to do all of it, yeah, guess it was too late. But overall, it was a good career, I really loved it.
So here's a question that I think is kind of interesting. You got a chance to work with a lot of Air Force warrant officers.
Oh, yeah, them WOs was something else. See, you gotta call them mister if you're talking to them on the phone. So I did a little dispatching, but I didn't like fire dispatching. I'd rather be out there on the action, you know, hide behind that hole, throw that water, and then the losing team, you wet them down, man. Wash them in the creek. But getting back to seriousness, I had a good career. I really liked it. The service was good. Met a lot of good friends. And,
Would you do it again?
Hmm?
Would you do it again?
I believe I would. I believe I'd do it much better. I believe I'd do it much better. You know, I couldn't get none of my grandchildren to go in the fire service. I asked them all. I took them to the fire stations. Could I come through? Just walk through for me. See these trucks. This do this, this do this, this do this. This guy gonna be your leader. Why? He's the captain. Most of my jobs in the service, when I did come in contact with officers, I'd come in contact with them. Most all my commanders, you know, unit commanders, were captains. The lieutenant was trainers, you know. Yeah. But it was a good career.
Well, we thank you for your service. And we thank you for sharing your story with us today. We really appreciate it.
Well, it was an honor to do it.
You're right.